Hi, Jordan. Welcome to
Hi.
Renna's Corner Conversations.
Thank you so much.
I'm so excited that you're here. So I was on Jordan's podcast. How long ago do you think? Was that like,
Probably like a month, maybe six
feels
weeks.
way longer than that, but recently, probably like the heart of winter, because now we're getting close to spring.
Thank goodness.
But I've been invited to a few podcasts, and at first I was like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to share. And I definitely have two in mind that I listened to, and I was like, wow, I like my mouth blabbing away actually has something to say. It's something helpful. So you were definitely one of those people who, with probably without even knowing, encouraged me to start Renna's Corner Conversations. And so I'm really excited to have you on. Jordan and her husband run the organization Support Now. And I used Support Now when we were raising funds for Renna's service dog. And with the help of Support Now and some other things that we had done, like the shoe drive, we were able to bring in $34,000 for Renna's service dog and any additional needs she might have in the future. Maybe something's not covered by insurance, like intensive therapy or medical equipment or something with her dog, her future dog. But I would love for you to share a little bit more about yourself, what exactly Support Now is, how to get started, and anything else that you want to share with us.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Jordan Arogeti. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Support Now. As Brenna mentioned, my husband and I started Support Now a couple years ago, actually 2.5 years ago, I want to say. And it's really a passion that was birthed out of COVID. The short version of this is during COVID, like everybody, we were on the receiving end of lots of scary, sad news. Things like loss, things like cancer, things like disability, house fires. And during that time, I joked with my husband that we live in a culture of cash and casseroles. And I really sat with that for a while. Like, why is it? Why is it that we, as community members, as supporters, as friends and family, why are we so conditioned to believe that we can give money and we can give meals and that's it? And my background is in technology sales. My husband's extremely entrepreneurial. So we really sat with it. Like a lot of people during COVID, we had time. We had a lot of time. And in that thinking and sitting with this, we realized that there was a pretty large opportunity to pursue a mission of building a company that changed the way that people both ask and receive support. Ways that include money, ways that include meals, but also ways that include how people communicate through updates and how they also ask for volunteers. And so the genesis of the company was, could we create a modern, more integrated version of what we've known as to be like kind of the traditional tools, right? So the simplest way of describing Support Now is, imagine if GoFundMe, Meal Train, Caring Bridge, and Sign Up Genius had a baby. Except everything is customizable. Families keep more of the money. And I would say the primary difference is actually in the heart behind what we're doing and why we're doing it. Along the way, we met an incredible woman named Abby Zacharitz, who had a perspective on grants, private grants. And she at the time was working with families that have a child with a disability, and adults actually, not just pediatric. And she had compiled a Google spreadsheet of grants that she had come across. Everything from cerebral palsy to cancer to Down syndrome, rare disease, all the things. And when I met Abby, light bulbs just went off immediately. And we knew right away that there was an opportunity to bring Abby on, to bring what she had built, and to give her the opportunity to reach, instead of maybe 100 people a year, hundreds of thousands of people a year. And so through that interaction, we built together, we built Connect, which is the largest database of active sortable medical grants in the world. It's completely free. And we brought her on as our director of family advocacy, where her only job is to support families that have a funding need, whether that be for a therapy, a dog, medical bills, a piece of equipment. And she helps families navigate finding funding, whether that's through grants, crowdfunding, and oftentimes both. So, what makes Support Now particularly unique is, of course, we have our crowdfunding platform that has all the bells and whistles of meals and volunteers, and you keep more of the money. And we have this incredible grants platform. And we have this amazing human in Abby that actually walks families through how to be successful in this. And all of our tools are completely free. And so while we certainly compete with the names that you're familiar with, in a lot of ways, we're building an entirely different category because Support Now is really designed for situations like disability, like a serious diagnosis, like loss, but done so in a way where you're not meant to feel like you're begging for help. It's more about giving people an opportunity to show up for you because they want to, not because you're asking.
Yeah, no, that's amazing to hear all of the background because of course I know a lot of it, but not all of it. So it kind of sounds like there was some really hard stuff in your life, and from that, this beautiful thing was created. That's what it's sounding like without hearing all the details or knowing all the details of what was going on during that time. And I feel like that's similar to my life with Renna. Like Renna has a rare genetic disorder called Pitt Hopkins syndrome. She just turned 6. She doesn't speak with words. We had questioned her cognitively because she has a hard time communicating.
Mm,
Um, she just started walking at 4.5. So a year and a half ago, she's using the potty, which is amazing because we never thought she would. But like that was not the life I expected. You know, you get pregnant, you have a child, everything was normal. Like I just was excited to have a baby and go through all this. And it's funny because she was born a week before everything shut down from COVID.
mhm.
So she was born on leap day of 2020. And we had lots of struggles. We had all this therapy. She couldn't even roll over or sit up at 18 months old, things like that. So there were all these things, and then the load of caregiving and like finding products and services and all these things just became more and more and more. And when we got the diagnosis when she was 2.5, I was like, oh my word, I can't fix this. Like, this is nothing that, like, I can't do anything. Like,
Right.
this is, this is like reality, real life of what her life will look like versus what I imagined it to be. And there's a lot of grief and all that. But from all that, Renna's Corner was created. All the things that I was struggling with to find this and that and products and being so just, well, what I have no idea. Like she's 32 pounds and she's still not walking. Like
Mm,
what can I do? I want to go on hikes. I imagine hikes with my child and all these things. And now I have a hiking carrier, a freeloader that holds up to 80 pounds. Like, so just through kind of that journey of finding different products and living this life, I now have these exclusive partnerships with different brands, and I'm able to um, offer. I I think what's really valuable for my side of things, and we'll get back to support now because I want to dig into that a little bit more, but just the fact that I have been able to connect with other business owners like you and your husband, the owner of Freeloader, and I just had a conversation, a Renna's Corner conversation yesterday, 2 days ago, with Julia, who is a fashion designer that had worked with children with autism, and she has created a line of sensory clothing, Sensational You, and it's just been so amazing to connect with these other business owners, but really to understand the heart of what they're doing behind their brand, their service, their product. And then to be able to say, like, hey, this is like a real person, a real family that has put their heart and soul into this service or product, and I've used it, and
Right.
it's amazing. So I love that these kind of partnerships have really created, I guess my Renna's Corner is also like a platform in a way where families hopefully know that they can trust what I'm sharing because it's what I've lived and the research that I've done and the conversations I've had, whether it's a Renna's Corner conversation or just a phone call or whatever. But I just find a lot of value and fun in that with connecting with other families and other people and just trying to give families who probably either are or were where I was, where I don't even know what to do. Like, I didn't even know that existed. I had no idea. I got this and it didn't work and I wasted $50, like whatever. So,
But
anyway,
what you're touching on is a really important piece that, and it's something that I knew before we started this company, and it's only become more pronounced, and that's moms trust moms.
yes.
Moms trust moms more than they trust a doctor, more than they trust a nurse, more than they trust a social worker, more than they trust a child life specialist. Moms trust moms. So part of why I agree, we love partnerships with nonprofits and ambassadors and medical moms across this country is because we ultimately know that the way that we'll be successful is by providing the best experience possible to moms that live this experience every day and sharing that with their communities so that these parents and families know that they have more access to better tools than they realize.
Hmm. Yeah. And the way that I found support now is actually through Abby. So Abby has an Instagram page called Advocacy Abby, and Instagram shares things with you that they think you want to see. So obviously with Renna, I get a lot of medical stuff, families who have children with autism. Like this world that I live in
Yeah.
is constantly being shared with me on Instagram, which I actually love because I've really found a lot of hope and encouragement from connecting with other families on Instagram as well. But I would see her posts all the time. And it was more of the grant side that caught my attention. I think it was right before you guys started with that part of support now with the grants connect, is that what it's
Mhm.
called? um because I remember her sharing about grants, and then I either started looking and I was like, I don't know, this is too overwhelming, or I didn't even get to that point. I was just too overwhelmed. But then I started seeing posts about something new that she was doing, and I had no idea that Support Now was involved. And she would kind of share like a screen, I guess, or a computer screen or whatever, and then she'd go through and she would show how easy it was to search for grants, to kind of narrow them down, to kind of put them in categories. You can correct me if my phrasing is wrong, but when I go through it, I literally just go through the grants, the list. And I kind of, if I can't tell by the title, I'll click in it and I kind of just scan for key things. Like if it's specific to a location, let's say Texas. Well, I don't live in Texas, so I know that I don't need that. So I click on the whatever, I can't remember the categories, but I literally say, nope, don't need it. And then there might be one where it is, let's say, a grant for swimming. Renna just recently started taking adaptive swim lessons, and it's quite expensive. So I see that one. I'm like, yes, we are saving that one. I'm going to be looking into that one. If there's something that is maybe like an intensive therapy or anything like that, I literally am like, save, save, save. And I have honestly haven't gotten to the point of, hey, I am ready to start applying to these different grants because we've actually been really blessed with our support now outpour basically. So I haven't had a chance to look at the grants, but it's been so amazing to see. So anyway, so I'm telling you all this because that's how I started following Abby. She popped up. The grants looked so cool. And then I started recommending her to other families that had children with disabilities, right? And I had two friends schedule a free 30-minute call with her. And they messaged me and they're like, she was so great. And I'm like, that's great. Like, I didn't even do a call with her. So after maybe like a month, I'm like, okay, what am I do? Like, I can use her help too. Why am I not
So
utilizing
funny.
this? So
That's insane.
yep, I set up a call with her. And this was when the thought of the service dog had just started coming to for I have a hard time with that word, but I just started thinking about the service dog. I was researching different organizations that trained and provided service dogs. So I jumped on this call with her. And this is a perfect example of me just doing because I just do. Like I tend to not overthink or prepare much. But I jump on this call and she's super nice. She's like, "All right, what are we raising funds for?" And I'm like, nothing yet. Like, I was like, well, I'm in the process of researching for a service dog organization. She's like, all right, great, let's do it. And then she she helped me come up with kind of like a about me. Um, and what else is she showed me exactly how to use the grant page and search and make it effective and not overwhelming like I
Yeah.
tend to feel. And that's kind of how it all started.
Yeah.
I set up this support now page without having all the information. And now looking back, I didn't need all the information. You know, I could set it up like you were saying. I could make edits, I could make changes, I could basically control what I wanted on this page. And so set it up. I ended up working with Funds to Orgs to do a shoe drive fundraiser. And so I had this Support Now page and I was doing the shoe drive fundraiser. And the shoe drive fundraiser was just an amazing way to share Renna's story, to share that Renna needed $20,000 for a service dog. And honestly, at first I was like, there's like, how am I going to do this? I had just started with the Support Now just by reaching out to some friends and family, not asking for anything, but basically just saying, hey, um, and I'd love to go back and see what I actually sent, but it was basically saying something about, um, I don't even know if I mentioned the service dog, but I just text some friends and family and I said, hey, I'm sharing Rena's story. I again, I don't know if I mentioned the money at all, but I basically was like, hey, can we count on you to be a part of Team Renna or something like that? And people start sharing on their social media, reaching out to other people, and we start seeing donations just trickling in. And
Yeah.
like you're saying, we didn't ask for money. Like, I guess in a way we were, but it wasn't that uncomfortable, like, hey, I need money, or buy this thing from me because I need money. And then, only like 5% comes back to us and they spent like $100 or whatever. Um, but yeah, so ultimately, with just exposure from the shoe drive and a place to land, we exceeded that $20,000 goal. And I looked the other day, it's just over $34,000.
Amazing.
Right? And it was, I feel like I make it sound like it's super simple, and it kind of is. But really, all we did was continue to share Renna's story. I would do updates on Support Now all the time. I would do updates on Facebook. I'd kind of like connect the two where they could click on the Support Now page. And it was good too because people that weren't on social media had a place that they could follow.
Right.
And really, anytime I shared anything, well, whether it was like a flyer or something on social media, I always had the Support Now link all the
Right.
time. And I didn't necessarily say, hey, donate here. It was more like follow Renna's story here, share Renna's story here, things like that.
Right.
And if we didn't have that, we probably would just have the $4,182 from the shoes. But
Yeah.
we exceeded that by like $30,000.
Well, and you deserve a lot of credit because the biggest obstacle from people getting support is being willing to ask for it.
Hmm.
Like most people don't get what they need in terms of support for whatever it is that you're fundraising for because pride gets in the way of feeling like you need help. And to your point, I think one thing that makes support now really unique is that we don't view people as like asking or begging for support. We position it as, and Abby is masterful at this, is you're giving people an opportunity.
Yes.
And through giving people that opportunity, it can be very easy and very fast to raise funds for the things you need, but you have to be willing to put it out there.
Mhm.
It's not going to raise itself. And that's something that, what's the biggest obstacle to Support Now's success? It's not the amount of things that happen in this world every day where people need support. It's not that the product doesn't work. Product is excellent. It is the psychology of families and especially of moms that are fearful that they will be perceived as not good enough, that they're not capable. And of course, that's crazy. And that's the story we find moms often telling themselves that I don't want to be viewed as not capable of doing this myself. Well, particularly in the medical family community, we know it can cost millions of dollars a year to provide for a child. So the idea that people just have this money just laying around is wild. It's wild. And so you get a lot of credit for doing the work. And I think one of the messages that I would want anyone that you speak with or any listeners to this podcast to know is the hardest part is just saying yes. Once you say yes, look what happened to you.
Mhm.
Look what happened. People want to help. You have to give them a place to go to do it. It's really that simple.
Yep. And I had people who came to me saying that I want to help. Like, this is such, not their exact words, but this is such a great cause. And I really want to rally around this. And I noticed that people became so passionate about Renna and what we were trying to do, whether it was the collecting shoes or the funds or just her story in general.
Yeah.
I literally had someone call me, and we're still in contact, and this was back in November. I was in the car driving somewhere an hour away, and I get this random phone call, and I'm like, doesn't say potential spam. So
Yeah.
I answered the phone call, and it was a stranger, and she said, that she had seen Renna on the news, and that was part of the shoe drive that we were promoting. And she said her daughter is, I think she's an adult at this point, but she said her daughter has medical complexities. At this point, she really can't leave the house. But Renna reminded her so much of her daughter when she was younger. And basically said Renna brought her so much joy. And she was just really sharing that she connected with Renna. She wanted to Well, she said one day I would love to meet Renna. So we haven't had the chance to meet her yet. We met her husband. They actually had given us some medical equipment that her daughter was no longer using. And
Mm.
we were able to donate at least one of those items. The other one I used to take Renna roller skating.
Oh, I
It's a
love
gate
that.
trainer that we had gotten rid of ours. So I had it in my car because we hadn't donated it or found a need for it at this point. But I took her roller skating and I put
Yeah.
skates
Oh,
on
I
her and I
love
put her
that.
in the skate trainer and she was skating.
So cool.
Um,
So
but
cool.
even like things like that, students from a local college, teachers from local schools, librarians, all these people like rallied around our cause
Yeah.
and it gave them a purpose. And I think
Yep.
people are seeking for something to be passionate about and a purpose. And I feel like support now and the our like families like us can really bring other people a purpose and joy in this. So, yeah, without asking, you are potentially not allowing people to feel this amazing sense of purpose and joy. And something that I thought of when you were talking about asking for help, someone had once said to me that asking for help is a sign of weakness. And I was like, well, I am. I am. I can't do all of this. And even like in my Christian beliefs, like I am weak and I need God's help in all things. And I probably didn't ask for help right away. I thought I could do it all. And I did reach a point where I was overwhelmed and exhausted.
Yeah.
And I remember standing in my kitchen and crying and saying, I'm about to have a breakdown. I can't do all of this. And it took a while and multiple things to get to a point where I'm not there anymore. But yeah, us moms, we just take on all these things and
Mhm.
we think we can do it. And we take things that other people could be doing and we're like, no, I got that. Oh, I don't want to burden you. No, I got that. I got that. I got that. And you're like,
Mhm.
oh, you just reach a point where you're like, I can't. And this is a little side note, but I started putting together a list maybe this past fall of people who I think would be willing to help me and Renna with anything. And I reached out to one of these women 2 days ago and I said, hey, I know you said if I ever need anything when it comes to Renna to reach out. I was like, are you available on Thursday? Because I really need a babysitter. Um, usually it's my family, but no one was available, and I didn't want to cancel the meeting at my church that I had. It's only once a month. And she was so excited.
Yeah.
She said, yes, I would love to come watch her. And
Yeah.
she is so sweet with Renna, and I was so thankful. Even this morning, she had unloaded my dishwasher and loaded it. And obviously, I did not ask for that. And I see little piles of Renna's clothes that I just throw on the floor. I'm like, oh, she really was taking such good care of Renna and my home. And I just feel so thankful. And I'm sure I should text her today and ask, but I'm sure that made her feel like she could help and that she had a role in Rena's well-being in life and things like that. So anyway, I just want to touch upon
Absolutely.
that before I forgot. And
Absolutely.
I'll let you share anything else that you think would be helpful. We have about 5 minutes left. Um,
Sure.
but yeah.
Yeah, I would just say that for anyone that finds themselves either as the primary caregiver that's at that point where they realize this is not sustainable, check out support now. But also, if someone's listening that knows a family that's going through what we consider a major life moment, to not be afraid to step up. I often say that one of the greatest obstacles to supporters stepping up is this dependence on permission. And unfortunately, when families or caregivers are overwhelmed, the instinct is not to accept that help, it's to push it away, even though they desperately need it. And so if you are listening and you say, gosh, I know someone right now that has a baby in the NICU or a medical expense that a family really needs, or God forbid, a cancer or a loss, and you're saying to yourself, I want to do something, but they haven't told me or they haven't said yes yet. My advice, just do it. Because the reality is, when people are in a state of overwhelm, they go through something called decision fatigue, which makes it very difficult for them to see through the here and now. And more times than not, what ends up happening, whether you set up a fundraiser or meals or volunteers, is the family ultimately, whether that's days later, weeks later, or months later, says to them, I never realized how much I needed this until now.
Mhm.
And so I think it takes courage on both sides, of course, for the medical moms that have the courage to say, you know what, enough's enough. We can do better. And we're going to strive to get this piece of equipment, this therapy, this dog, again, whatever it might be. But it also takes courage for the people that see a family, love a family, and know that there's others that believe in their child or their loved one and just want to see an opportunity, or rather see an opportunity to step up and step in. And so I encourage everyone to go to our website, www.supportnow.org. You can also find us on Instagram. It's just supportnow_org, where we share not just, about our product, but really inspiration about support, both for organizers, for families, trying to create a very relatable feed, whether it's funny or sad, topical. And that's really the greatest gift you can do for us, is just use us, give us a try. And I'm very confident that once you use Support Now, you'll see the difference, because we are a company that doesn't just strive to build the best products. We really strive to create the best experience as defined by families getting the outcomes that they're looking for.
Yeah. That made me think of a question real quick. So
Sure.
I know when I had my Support Now page set up, Abby actually did it as the organizer, because I was like, oh, I don't know that I want to be the organizer, because then it's me asking for help. And I was all new to all of this at that
Mm-hmm.
point. So she did set it up for me. And so if anybody wants to set up a page, but they don't want to have their name, I can certainly help with that, right? I can do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anyone can set it up, and you can have multiple organizers on a registry.
Okay. So, yeah, if anybody needs help or wants a different organizer, they can have a different organizer, or I could do it. And I will definitely share all of your handles, website, all of that. And I'm
Thank you.
also going to share the link to set up a 30-minute call with Abby too, because that was super helpful. And Abby was on Renna's Corner Conversations too. She
I
was
saw, I saw.
Yeah, I think she was maybe my third guest. So I did feel a little out of my comfort zone, because I go to her Instagram, I see thousands of followers, and I'm like, who am I? But you know what? You just do. You just get out of your comfort zone and you just do. And it gets easier and easier as you go, because you realize, like, I can do that.
Yeah,
Or you learn from things. And so I'm not where she is, but she was where I am now,
that's right.
in this journey of just sharing with other families. So,
That's right.
all right.
Well,
Well,
thank you
thank
for having
you.
me.
Yeah, it's been great. And thanks for the inspiration
Of
and
course.
all that you guys do.
Yep. Always cheering for Renna.
Thanks.